Hey guys, Luke here, and it's time to do another tips video for the 2019 NRL season. Round 11 is here, let's go. Now first off, I just want to say it's Indigenous around, so there's going to be some pretty cool jerseys out on show. I'm keen to see all of them. Also, Origin is just around the corner, so expect all the players in contention to step up big time right now. Anyways, let's talk about some games, shall we? The first game of the round sees the Parramatta Eels taking on the Penrith Panthers. Now this one I think should be a pretty decent game. The Panthers obviously awful. The Eels haven't been too great, but they're playing at home this week, and I think they're a whole different team when they're at home. Blake Ferguson moves into the centres, which is interesting. Also, Sandman is out and Will Smith moves into 5'8". Takarini on the bench, which is interesting. Also, in particular, because Watene Zelezniak is apparently rumoured to be coming to the Eels, so I don't know if he's going to slot into the centres eventually, but it's just funny that they come up against the Panthers. Zelezniak is being dropped and he wants out. Speaking of players being dropped, Mansour, Campbell Gillard got dropped last week. They're back this week. Apparently they went decent in reserve grade. At least Campbell Gillard apparently killed it in reserve grade. I think they should be good inclusions into the side, but this Panthers side, I'm so done with them. I just can't see them beating Para, especially at Bankwest. They've just been too strong, so Parramatta, 13+. Moving on to Friday night, we have the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles taking on the Gold Coast Titans. Now, this is kind of the tale of two sides here. I mean, Manly have been killing it this year. The Titans, not so much. You can argue they've been the worst team in the comp. I'm not sure if they're coming last or not, but they're definitely right down the bottom there. The fact that they lost to the Bulldogs last week after having a 16-point lead at home really says it all about them. Ash Taylor, if he was any other player, he'd be dropped right now, but the fact that he's their $1 million man, I mean, it's probably, I don't know, I feel like that should be more reason for him to be dropped. He is just doing absolutely stuff all. Manly, on the other hand, are having all these unknown guys like Kay Cuss last week comes in, makes his debut, has a really good game. Kane LG comes from the Titans. He's playing pretty good at the moment. Players like Brendan Elliott and that, they are really playing above their means at the moment, and it's really good to see. Des Hazard, he's got something in the water there at Manly. He's doing good things. Essentially, with just the form this year, the Titans have been so bad, Manly have been so good. I think you're crazy to tip the Titans, so I'm going to go Manly 1-12. Now into the second game of Friday night, we have the Newcastle Knights taking on the Sydney Roosters. You can argue this one might be match of the round. It's a pretty juicy matchup. I mean, the Knights absolutely flogged the Dragons last week. The Roosters actually went down to the Broncos. I really didn't expect it to happen for both sides, really. I mean, I thought the Knights might have won. I know I changed my tip very late on to the Dragons, but I definitely thought the Knights could have won. I just didn't expect it to be anywhere near that. I thought it'd be a real tough grinding game, but it just wasn't the case. They decimated the Dragons. The Roosters, on the other hand, they didn't really do too much. I mean, they weren't terrible, but the Broncos just kind of had it over them. There's just a bit more effort in there. And yeah, I don't really know what to say about the Roosters. They didn't play bad, which makes this game a lot more interesting because the Roosters, they're in decent form still. The Knights obviously just hit their stride now. They finally clicked after all these weeks. We've been waiting for this sort of performance all year, and it's finally happened. Mitchell Pearce up against his old club. We have Clemmer up against Hargraves. I think it should be a really good matchup. In terms of who's going to win, I really don't know. I think safe bet is to go for the Roosters. I'll probably go Roosters 1-12. Now into Super Saturday. The first game is the Canberra Raiders taking on the North Queensland Cowboys. Now the Raiders, they have been the surprise packet for me. Well, maybe Manly, but the Raiders right up there as well. I thought they'd be down the bottom, and instead they find themselves in the top 4, playing outstanding, definitely competing with every team every week. It's a big change up from previous years for the Raiders. Now I thought the same was going to happen for the Cowboys this year. I thought it'd be a bit of a change up. I thought they'd go pretty well this year. Hasn't really been the case. However, they did get a win last week. Maybe hitting a little bit of form, finding their stride a little bit. Jason Talmolo back. He's been very good for them since he's come back into the side. Asiata at 5'8" has actually been pretty good. Gadia Mosby, I think that's how you pronounce it. The really fast guy, he's on the wing this week. I'm really interested to see how he goes. I mean, Addo Carve, some of those guys, super speedsters, and they are very, very good. This guy apparently is right up there with speed. Overall, though, I think the Raiders, they just have a bit too much. It's in Canberra. I think their 4-pack will be able to control the Cowboys' 4-pack, and then I think the rest of the side is much better for the Raiders. So, for that reason, I'm going to be tipping the Raiders 13+. Now, moving across the ditch, we have the New Zealand Warriors taking on the Brisbane Broncos. Now, this one is also a very juicy clash. I mean, we've got two teams who have just hit form at the right time. We also have Nikorima up against his old club. I think this should be a really, really good clash. It's in New Zealand, so I think that obviously works in the Warriors' favour. The Broncos, I'm not really sure how their record is at the moment in terms of travelling. I'd suspect they've been playing in Brisbane the last few weeks, so this is the first time travelling in a little bit, so might take it out of them a little bit, but shouldn't do too much to them. The Broncos obviously had an incredible win against the Roosters, but a lot of the times when teams take on a team like the Roosters and they get the job done or they get very close, they rise up for that game so much that it takes it out of them next week. And obviously this is next week. Now, the Warriors at home will be very hard to beat. Nick Karoom up against his old club. I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors win this one, but just based off last week, I think you've got to go the Broncos, and I'll go the Broncos 13+. I think they were just too good last week. Now into the last game of Super Saturday, we have the South Sydney Rabbitohs taking on the West Tigers. Now, it's actually surprising me the last few weeks, the West Tigers have actually been playing some pretty good football. Obviously, a few weeks ago, they got the easy win against the Panthers, and then last week, really surprised me against the Storm. The Storm had just come off a huge win against the Eels, and I thought, yeah, they're probably going to go with the momentum, they're probably going to crush the Tigers. Wasn't the case. They really should have won last week. Is that going to deflate them or inspire them? I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, this Tigers team playing pretty well at the moment. Ryan Madison has been very good. Momorowski is in the team this week as well. But yeah, you can't really go past this Rabbitohs side. It's just a fantastic side across the board. Your backs, your forwards, your halves, so bloody good. Cody Walker playing very well. Adam Reynolds playing well. Damien Cook still killing it. The Burgess brothers killing it. Everybody's really killing it for the Rabbitohs. And yeah, I just can't go past the Rabbitohs for this one. I think they're way too strong just all across the board. So I'm going to go Rabbitohs 13+. Moving on to Sunday, we have my Kangaroo Bankstown Bulldogs taking on the Melbourne Storm. Now this game is in Belmore. Go back a few years ago, actually. It feels like a lifetime ago now. But the very first game I saw at Belmore, it was the Bulldogs taking on the Storm, and we absolutely pummeled the Storm. Now, going on a few years, it's not necessarily the case. Every time we play at Belmore, it kind of feels like we're cursed. We usually end up copping a bit of a flogging. I mean, the last game I remember, I think it was against the Titans. Michael Gordon ran amok that day. Absolutely embarrassing. However, I think the Bulldogs boys will be able to take a lot of confidence going into this game due to the fact that the last time the teams played, Bulldogs probably should have won that game. Melbourne kind of got away with it. Ockenbaugh sort of dropped the ball at the end there. A few defensive lapses, but for the most part, the Bulldogs were all over the Storm. Just a testament to the Storm that they actually got the job done. However, it's a few weeks later. The Storm will also know what to expect with the Bulldogs, you would think. The Bulldogs threw it around a lot in that first game. Will they do the same this game? Who knows? It seems to be a bit of hit and miss with the Bulldogs. Some games they come out and they throw the ball around willy-nilly and it works. Other times they're very conservative but still end up dropping the ball. It's really weird for the Bulldogs. But you can't really go past this Storm team. Just the consistency is there every week. You at least know they're going to play half decent. It's going to be a very hard game to win. You know, whether you're on your best or on your worst, you know you're in for a game with the Storm. So I think you're going to have to go with the Storm this one. I think they're just going to be too good, even at Belmore. In fact, Belmore almost works against the Bulldogs at this point. So I'm going to go the Melbourne Storm 13+. Now moving on to the last game of the round, we have the St. George Illawarra Dragons taking on the Cronulla Sharks. Now this is another one which is quite tough to pick for me this week. Not due to the teams being very good, but because they've been so bad as of late. I think the Dragons have been much worse than the Sharks, but just with how bad they got beat last week, a lot of the time the teams tend to hit back the next week. Are the Dragons going to do it? Who knows? I'm looking at this side. They've made a few changes. Duffy's out. Zach Lomax moves to fullback. Apparently that is his position. I remember seeing on Clarkie's column, Zach Lomax went and did some question and answers on there, and he said that his preferred position is fullback. That's where he's mostly played or whatever. So he finally gets a chance there. I think Jonas Pearson, who's come down from the Broncos, finds himself on the wing there. Ravalawa, I'm pretty sure he's gone. I think that had to happen. The footy smash just went there. It was costing them big time. For the Sharks though, Matt Moylan is on the extended bench. Expect him to play. Where he plays, I'm not exactly sure. I would think probably move to fullback and then maybe Bronson Xerri moves to the wing or something like that. I mean, I would probably drop him personally. I don't think he's been playing that well. I think his hands are shocking, and I think you're better off moving Dugan to the centres and Moylan to fullback. I think you leave Kyle Flanagan in there, let him develop. I think he's been quite decent, and I don't think you want to move Moylan into the halves for a few rounds and then shift him back to fullback once Johnson is there. But yeah, in terms of the actual game itself, I just don't know who to pick. I mean, looking at both of their lineups, I mean, they're not terrible. They should be doing a lot better than what they are. But I mean, they're not in good form, both teams. I will say though, usually a game between these two sides is actually a pretty good game. So in terms of game quality, I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually really good. But in terms of a winner, man, it's hard to pick. I think the Sharks just have a little bit more form than the Dragons. I can't tip the Dragons after last week. Like, having 45 points put on them, that's shocking. And I know the Sharks didn't beat Manly, but Manly have been tough and gritty this year. So I guess there's no shame in losing to Manly. So I'm going to go Sharks 1 to 12. Anyway, guys, that is the end of the video. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure you go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also, make sure to leave in the comment section below, what are your tips for this week? Also, while you're at it, if you have Twitter and Instagram, go ahead and give me a follow. It's on the screen right now, Mr. Luke on YT. My Facebook page is also in the description below. I've been posting on that a fair bit more, so go and give me a like on that. Also, add me on Snapchat. It's Mr. Luke on YT, same as what's on the screen right now. Anyway, guys, round 11, shaping up to be a good one. I hope it is. Go Bulldogs, go my tips. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.